Okay, welcome to week two's topic lesson. Now, last week I got you to look at what you thought an engineer might be and what kind of jobs they might have done, what kind of things they might have done. There was a couple of videos to help you with that. That's because this half term, and actually really the whole of this term, we're going to be looking at pioneers. Okay, now a pioneer can be two different things. It could be somebody who is the first to explore a particular area or a new country. We've had a few of those in our time. Or it could be a person who begins to help and to develop something new so that others can follow, and it changes our lives, or it changes the way that we do things. And we're going to be looking at a range of different pioneers who also happen to be engineers this half of term. And the first one we're going to look at is George Stephenson, who is the man on the screen at the moment. Okay, now, just by looking at the picture, what do you think he might have done? Have a think. Do you think he was alive a long time ago? Or do you think he is still alive today? Again, there might be a clue in the picture. So this video, this PowerPoint, is all about George Stephenson. He's going to tell us all about his life. What might be a good thing is if you could maybe write some notes down, or jot some notes down of things that you find out as I'm going through the video. Because at the end of the video, you're going to write a little mini fact file about him. And you can rewatch this video as many times as you want to help you, but it might be good just to jot down a couple of notes about things that he's done or little interesting facts that you find out. So let's find out about George Stephenson and what he did. So he was an engineer. George Stephenson was born on the 9th of June in 1781. That's over 240 years. That was 240 years ago, in a place called Northumberland in the United Kingdom. His father worked in the coal mine, and so did George to begin with. He didn't go to school because there wasn't school in those days for a lot of people. But when he was 18 years old, George taught himself to read and write. So this was the time before schools were compulsory, so only the rich people went to school. George worked at lots of different coal mines, or collieries as they were called, and was made a chief mechanic, so that's the person in charge. In 1814, George built a locomotive, a vehicle that could run on a railway, and he named it the Vulture. And this was used to transport coal, and it could travel at 4 miles an hour. That's pretty slow. Okay, so it's a bit like a train for coal. Over time, George made improvements to the steam system and increased the pulling power of the engine. He made his first steam railway locomotive. And did you know, so this is an interesting fact, the Vulture was named after the Prussian general who led his army against Napoleon in a number of battles. That was a long time ago. In 1821, George was asked to be an engineer for a new railway being built, which would run from Stockton to Darlington, and his son Robert worked with him. Railroads were first built to transport coal around the country. However, in 1825, the railway opened, and it was the first railway for passengers. It could carry more than 450 people and travel at 15 miles an hour, which is about the same speed as a horse running. Before locomotives were powered by steam, horses would pull rail cars along the track. So he was the pioneer, or the inventor, of the steam engine. In 1826, George was given the job of an engineer for Liverpool to Manchester Railway, because he'd made such a good success on the previous one. So building this railway wasn't easy because George had to use the land that belonged to farmers and landowners. He had to talk to them about how useful the new rail would be to convince them it was a good idea. So he was going through people's lands that didn't want a railway in it. In October 1929, the railway owners held a competition to find out which locomotive was best for pulling heavy loads at long distance. The prize was £500. He created the first steam engine, which was called the rocket. This was so successful it proved that railways could be useful for business and for people, and this led to railways being built all over the country. George was an engineer on most of these new railways. George Stephenson died on the 12th of August 1848 in Chesterfield. His work left an important legacy which continues to this day. So he was the pioneer of train travel. If it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have trains today, and we would find it very difficult to travel round the country. So your task is to fill in this sheet which is attached to your pack and then stick it in your topic books. So I want you to find out, you can go back through the video, when was George Stephenson born? When did he die? Okay, and on this line you're going to write George Stephenson is significant because, and there's a picture of a camera here because that's a snapshot of his life. So why was he important? What have I been talking about? What was the PowerPoint talking about? What did he help make? There's a picture of George Stephenson here. You might want to try and find a picture on the internet and colour it in, just like that. And then some interesting facts. Now, you don't just have to use this video. What you can do is do your own research. If you want to go online to have a look at, find out about George Stephenson yourself, I suggest using the Children's Encyclopedia website called Kiddle. So if you would just type into Kiddle into Google, that will come up and it will give you some child-friendly facts about George Stephenson that you can put into your fact file. Okay, over the next few lessons, next few weeks, we're going to find out a bit more about George Stephenson and some of the things that he did. So you might notice I skipped one of the pages in the video, and that's because we're going to find out more about that later on. So today's lesson is just some simple sentences about George Stephenson. Good luck, and I look forward to having a look at your work at the weekend.